Hey guys, and I welcome you to part 2 of how to make a custom horses in Minecraft 1.8.8. This part we're going to be showing you guys how to actually change some variables of the physical horse, and not just change it but also get there. And the first variable that we're going to be working on is actually the speed of a horse, because as I said before, no two cars are the same speed. So to change this, we have to make two new functions in the actual plugin itself. So we're going to go up to here and we're going to make two custom plugins, two custom functions, sorry. One's going to be called set and one's going to be called get. So the one we're going to be doing first, we're going to be doing set. So public void, because we're not receiving anything because we're setting something. Remember guys, when you're setting something, you can return something, but it's better off if you don't. Unless you're going to return a string, so it says, okay, return the string after you've done this function. But in this case, we don't need to, so we're just going to have a public void, and it's going to be called set horse speed. And the attribute we're going to need is two attributes. First, we're going to need the horse itself, because we need to know who we're setting it for. So we're just going to call the horse H, and we also need how much by. So we're going to use a double, and we need the speed. So this is, you can put in any variable in here and as a horse. So if you send a horse through and any number for speed, it will set it here and do anything that we want in here. So the way these are done by what's called attribute instances. And attribute instances, what it allows you to do is to tweak certain parts of different attribute or entities in Minecraft. So in a case of the horse, if you want to change what's the actual code of the physical horse, then you have to do it by an attribute instance, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do this now. So we need to first import attribute instance. So attribute instance, I'm going to import it. We're just going to call it attribute just for now. Do we need to import it? Oh, it's good, it's already imported because it comes with the server. So we've got attribute instance, and this is going to be equal to the instance, so the incentive of the actual entity. So we need to convert the horse into an entity intenters. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a open bracket. We're going to convert it, because remember, the way we convert things is by doing like this. There we go. We're going to need to import this, of course, but we'll probably do that in a second. Okay, we're also going to need to convert that from another one. So we're going to need to convert this from the horse itself. So we need to convert the horse into a special horse as well, because if you remember guys, we use for the player, we use the craft living entity. We also need to do this for the actual horse, because we need, the only way you can convert a horse into an entity is if it's a craft living entity. So we need to first convert that first. So we need to do craft living entity from the horse. So what I do is convert the horse into this. Okay, we need to, let's do it at the bottom, we need to get the handler of this entity as well. So it's all of this is done. We need to also get the horse, to get the handler for it, so we can change certain attributes. We need to close all this off. Okay, so that should all be nice and fine. Then we need to get the attribute instance, and then we can set it to however we want. So in our case, we're going to use a generic attributes, and then we can change it for our horse in a sense. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be changing one attribute, and the attribute we're going to be changing at the current moment is the movement speed. So we can just go down and hit movement speed. So guys, what you gotta do to actually get rid of this weird error that we have here, I don't know why there's a gap here, it's random. What you have to do is if you remember, we've just imported a type here, but for some reason it actually caused a random error. Sometimes you guys will get this, sometimes you won't. So what you just got to do right now is just go to the top, and you see the attributes instance and the generic attributes. Just remove both these two lines, and then if you go back down, it will now have this error back up. But now this should be working fine. If this is working fine, then it isn't working. So you just go over here, input this one, click over here, input this one, click over here, and input the last one. I don't know why it does that sometimes, but it's just a situation where you just have to look into it, figure out what's going on, and just quickly fix it. It takes a second. So now we just save this, put this back on, and then what happens is whenever we do this command with this horse, it will set its speed, and then that's it. But what we also want to do, we also want to get it. And to get it, what we have to do is just make another variable, another function, but this function is to receive information. So we can do a public double, because if you remember we put in a double, but to get, we can get out of a double as well. So we're going to get a public double, and we're going to call it get horse speed, and we're going to get the horse we're talking about. Open and close, and as you can see, we've got now an error saying that whatever happens, it needs to return a double, or less you cannot use this function, because it's not a void statement where it doesn't have to return anything. It has to return something, and it must be a double. No matter what it is, it needs to be a double. So what we can do is we need to do just like we did up here, but for a situation that will actually get information. So in actual retrospect, we can just copy this, because we're only trying to get the movement speed, like so. But we're going to return attribute dot get value, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the value you get from here. This, what this would do is would set the new movement speed, because it will get this attribute, only this attribute, and set it. But in this situation, we want to get it, so that way it will return what the horse speed currently is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back down to where we spawn a horse, and we're going to do two things. First, we're going to get its speed, we're going to set it, and then get it again. So first I'm going to do horse, so we're going to do set horse. So first we're going to get it, sorry, wrong way around. Get horse speed, we're gonna push in our horse, and this is going to turn on double. So we're gonna do player dot send message, and this is the number we're gonna get, plus space is the horse's speed. Okay, and this will send this place, so that we'll go whatever number the horse's current speed is, it will send it to us right now. So if I save it, export it, reload this, there's a lot of horses all over the place, and we spawn a horse. It says our horse's speed is 0.257 this, and they all change depending on the horse. All of them have different ones. So that tells you how fast they can go and all that lovely stuff like that. Well, think about this, guys. 0.2 is very fast. As you can see, it's going incredibly quick already. But we can now just muck around with this value using the spawner we've just made. So what we can actually do now is we can get this first one. We can say, is the horse's speed now? Or we can do before. And what we can now do is set horse's speed, the horse we're using, and by how much. So we can do 0.5. We can export it, reload this. Okay, we don't need this horse anymore. We can get most of these horses out of the way, because they are literally in the way right now. Hope they run off. I really don't want to run off. Okay, we don't need this stuff. Okay, spawn a horse, and it says that was the old horse's speed, and it's now 0.5. So now if we go and ride the horse, it's a lot faster, and I mean a lot faster, and we can go as much as we want. I won't recommend going more than 2. I think probably 2 is incredibly fast. I think 2 could crash a server. But I don't recommend anything higher than this. Anything like 10 is just a bit OP, okay? I don't recommend it in any way, shape or form. There we go, here's 2. So yeah, it's way too fast, as you can clearly see. Way too quick for me to even handle. Can we even get up here? No, we're stuck in water. It's down. I'm still in creative mode, it's not a problem though. As you can see, we are very, very fast. So fast that my chunks can't even load. So you can see how it works. And that's literally how we have a custom speed for the horse as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to play it safe. We're just going to do 0.4 because I don't think you really need any more than that. And now I'm going to show you guys how to make a custom horse. And I really love doing this because it allows you to do some really, really fun stuff. So we're going to make a new class. And the horse is going to be called Cust Horse. God, why do I keep spelling house? I don't know. So to make the custom horse class, we're going to just say, okay, we want to import it, but the thing is we want to make a certain amount of custom horses. So we need to make a constructor, and the constructor is going to be the following. It's going to involve us having our public class up here, and we're going to need our public constructor. So our public constructor is going to be a public cust horse and whatever variables we want, and open close. So every time the horse is spawned, it will go through here. So we want certain variables. We want it to pass through the horse we're using. So horse. I'm going to say new horse in a sense. And we also want to import the keys we're going to use. So item stack key. Okay. And if you want it, I will say unlocked or not. So we're going to have a Boolean unlock mode. Under new and new key. We're going to import the item stack into this class, so we need that one, and import the horse into this class. So now every single time that we send a horse through this constructor, it will take in these variables, but as you can see at the moment, it does nothing with them. So it's for us to have it, we need to have some private variables that only are accessed by this itself. So we're going to have private, so that means they can only be accessed by this class. If you need to access it by another class, I recommend you make a function that is public that can take variables through the private class and then pass it through another class. It's a lot safer than allowing all this to do it, because if you do this, problems can occur where it comes to accessing the right horse or just stupid things like that. So it's always great if you're making custom animals or custom anything really, make sure you have it private. So in our situation, we have a private horse that we're using. So we've got a horse, and we're going to do our horse. We're going to need another private. We're going to need a private item stack for the key, or yeah, we're going to need one for the key. Let's have this key, and we're going to need a private Boolean. Capital P is not right, so capital another Boolean and unlocked. So that's going to say if it's unlocked or if it's not unlocked. Okay, so what we're going to do is this: we're going to have equals false. And for you guys who do not know what this is, it's not always recommended, but what this means is if you don't pass through anything, it will make it false. I think it might be a C++ term, which is why it doesn't seem like it's wanting to work right now. But in most cases, this does work. But in case it doesn't seem like it's going to work, so it's not a problem for us at all anyways. So as you can see, we have all this stuff, but as you can see, it's yellow, means it's not used at all anywhere. So that's why we're going to be using it as a construction now. So when we pass through this, it's going to set it to this. So this horse, this our horse, which means whatever this is user, it accesses the stuff that's in this class. So it would be this private horse is equal to the stuff from this horse. So everything within this horse is equal to this. So this literally is this horse. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing for the rest of the stuff. So what this key is equal to the new key, and this unlocked is equal to what we pass as new unlocked mode. That means if we want it to be unlocked or if we don't want it to be unlocked. On most cases it's not going to be unlocked, but it's just in case you want it to have unlocked. Okay, so we can just save this now. We can ignore these for now because it's not going to cause any problems at all. In fact, we can actually add this warning, so what happens is it won't cause any more problems if it says, okay, well, it doesn't, it's not in use, but it's okay. It's not going to cause a problem for the engine at all. But what it's going to do is going to do all of this stuff, and it's also going to, we should be able to get the player too, but in most cases you really don't need to. Should we get the player as well? No, I don't think we need to get the player. So what we could have done was get the player and tell the player, okay, well, we've now spawned your horse, and actually we can just do it for this place. We're not going to store him, we're just going to use him. So it's player P and import players, and we're going to send the player message, your horse is made successfully. Okay, so every time that this is done, we know that it's been accessed in here and it's been made successfully. But there's many things we need to do as well. If we just make the horse now and then leave him out of here, after this loop the horse doesn't exist, because the way this works is after this none of the stuff in here exists. The reason why it exists outside is because we actually adding it to the world. We're spawning it. I mean, it's just a function, we're adding it to it. But in a situation like all this code does not exist after this loop. So what we need a way to keep it stored outside of the loop. So we need to go to the top and we need to make a list. And to do this, you just have to write list, the type of list we're making, type of list we're making, but in this case it needs to be an array list, but we want it to be public, so we do public array list. And what type of attributes is for array list? It can be a string, it could be a boolean, it could be double, it could pretty much be almost anything, but in our case we want it to be our custom horses, so we can add custom horse, and this array name is going to be called our horse array, and this is equal to a new this is equal to a new array list of type custom horse, and then you need open and close for the function, so as you can see, we've now got an error, and you guys are probably thinking why we got an error. The reason why we got this error is actually because we've actually put this in the wrong place. As you can see, we're actually putting it where we've got our imports on, but it's actually not in the class at all because the class starts here. So what we need to do is just copy this and actually paste this right here, right before the function starts. And then you can see that we just need to import array list, and there we go. So now we can actually store our new horses in this array, and you can delete this if you ever need to, but in our case we're just having it for collection. So now we can actually just go down to the bottom where we got our horses where they made, and now we can do horse array, and then we can add our custom horse that we've just made. But as you can see, we've not yet made one, so let's make one. So we got custom horse, and as you know, the attributes to make a custom horse are all of this lovely stuff. So what we got to do is first we need to say, okay, the horse takes in a player, so we can take a player. Then it needs the horse we're using, and then it also needs the key. So we can just do first type X for now because we need to make the key, and if it's unlocked or if it's not locked. So in our case, it's going to be not locked, so it's going to be false, and then X. Okay, and now to make the key, we just make a new item stack. And we can name it car key, and that is equal to a new item stack material, whatever material you want. So we're just going to use a name tag because they kind of look like keys. It's literally the closest you'll get, and with that we're going to get the meta of this as well. So car key meta is equal to the car key get it, and then now we're going to this matter, we're going to set its new display name, and this can be anything we want. We're going to name it car key, and then we're going to set it back, we're going to set the meta back to the car key itself. Set meta. Okay, so now this is now known as a car key, and now what we're going to do is we're now going to put the car key where it's supposed to be in here, which should be working fine. But as you can see, this is going to be causing us an error. The reason why is because we have not actually made anything yet. So to do this, we're going to have to do a little bit at the top. We're going to do custom horse. We're going to need a horse, our cust horse is equal to a new cust horse, and then you can see all the attributes that we couldn't find before, and we can just literally copy and paste all that beautiful code in there, close it off, and now we have our own custom horse. Now if we had attributes in our custom horse, we could do them. For example, if we said say hi, it will say hi to the player, but you can clearly see we don't have it, so we don't need it at the moment. But anyways, we got our custom horse made. We're gonna push it into here so that we can store it, and that's it. So now if we export it, in fact before we export it, let's also give the player the car key because he does need a copy as well. So we're gonna do player dot get inventory dot add item and give him a car key. Gonna export it, reload the server, go on to Minecraft, and now we're gonna sponsor a baby pig. And as you can see, your horse is made successfully, which does mean that this horse accessed this class, did all this lovely stuff, and put him in here. So now if we was able to access what was inside of the actual array that we made, it would say one entity, because that's now what it has. So now if we want to now make a custom horse, we now need to do something else. We need to have a function in here that checks if a player uses the special car key on a horse, and if the car key is registered with this horse, it will say horse is unlocked or car is unlocked, and the player can go on a horse. But before this, what we're going to do is also do a check to see if the horse is unlocked already or if it's not unlocked. So what we're going to do is we're up here, we're going to make a new function. It's going to be a new event function. So we're going to write event handler, and it's going to be a public void on entity mount. So what happens whenever a player sits on any entity or tries to mount to it, it will go through this function. So the function we're going to need is an entity type. I think this should be an entity mount event. There we go. And it's an event. Open and close. And what's going to happen every single time the player sits on an entity, it's going to trigger this event. So what we're going to do first is we're going to get event. We're going to get the entity type to find out if it is an actual, sorry, the entity, to get the mount to make sure it's an actual horse. So if the get mount and then get entity, so get type of entity mounts is equal to the entity type horse, which means this person is a horse, so this mount is a horse, then we can actually, instead of going into all the main code first, we're just going to do a little of what I like to call a debug code, where we just get it to just to say something back to us. So we're going to do event to get the entity, whoever mounted this entity. We're going to send him a message and say, you just sat on a horse. And we're going to export that now, reload the server, go into Minecraft, and in fact we don't even need to make one, we can just sit on anyone, and it says you just sat on a horse, and this will continuously happen many times as we try. So what we want to do is now that we can get the fact that it's a horse, we can convert this horse back into this little guy over here. So what we first need to do is we need to correspond this to the array of all of these that we currently have on the server. So what we're going to do, if there's a horse, so we can leave this for now so we know where we sat on a horse. First, there's some checks you need to do for an array. You need to check if it's empty, and if it is empty and you try to use commands, it will crash. It'll probably crash the server. It's quite stupid like that. So what we need to do first is we need to get the array name. So it's our house array. I mean, why did I say house array? It's going to be horse. I did not spot that, guys. So where are we? There we go. So it's our house array. So we're going to do a few statements. If the house array is null, which means it's equal to nothing currently, do nothing. Else, if the array is empty, also do nothing. So that means if our horse is just a general horse, don't do anything about it. And else, do all the stuff that we need. Okay, so now we need to do what's called a for loop. A for loop goes through all the each standpoint, so each A to Z of the array to find out where the horse is that we physically need. So we're going to do a for int, which is integer, so for number I, so I can be for any number, as you know. I is equal to 0, so I is a value of 0 right now. From 1, I is less than how big this array is, so we need our horse array size. Stop. I plus plus, and what I plus plus means is I plus 1. So it starts at 0, which is the first position. If there's more than if there's the size is less than how big it is, then after the loop is finished, go up 1 and then do it again, and it will continue to do it until the array is completed is more than this size level. So it will go through every single array. It will never think, okay, it will go higher than the array size. It will be always exact. Okay, so what we can do, we can now check the horse that we have is the horse in here. So for us to do this, we're going to actually need to do a little few things. First of all, what we're going to need to do is we need to convert the horse entity type to an actual horse so that it can actually be physically used. So we already checked that it's a horse, so that now we can set it to be a physical horse. So we can do horse X, because it's not much of a problem if we just use X at the moment. Horse X is equal to event.getMount, because this is the horse that we're currently using right now. But remember, we need to pass through it as a horse because it's just an entity right now. And then there we go. So now if we use X, it'll be the horse that we're currently looking at, and then we can use whatever commands we want. But what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to do a custom command as well as this. In our custom horse, we need to get what we actually put in, so that way we can get the item stack that we use, we can get the horse we use, we can even get the player. But in this situation, we're not storing the player, so we don't physically need it. So now we can get rid of these commands because we won't need them, because we're actually going to start using this. So we're going to make some functions. So we've already got our constructor up here. Now we're going to make some functions, and these are going to be public functions. That means they can be accessed outside, so that we can actually use them in the king trait. So we're going to do a public, and we're going to return whatever object we're using. So we're going to do a public horse, because we're going to return the horse we're using. Get horse, open close, because we're not passing through anything. Open close, and it's just going to return our horse. So what it's going to do is, if we now try to get this function in here like so, and we say, okay, through this array I want you to get position I, so position 0 at the current moment, I want you to do whatever command. So I want you to get the horse. So now we've got the horse, we can now check to see if this horse is the horse we're referring to. So we can do if this horse is equal, so it's exactly the same as the horse that we're talking to, so exactly the same as X, which is this horse, then do something. Else, okay, and then one other thing we need to do is we should do a checker as well. So we can have a boolean. So boolean is my horse, and this is currently equal to false. So if this is true, so after doing this whole entire check, if you find my horse, then this is equal to true, and it will do horse code here. But if it's not, after the end of the loop, so I've just gone through every single position in an array. So when an array is here, if this is still false, so if this is, remember this is, if this is true, which is this, then you can do that. That means if this current condition is true. But if it's still not true, which is, remember this is the flip, so if it's not true, then I want you to eject the player and tell him this horse is currently unlocked. So sorry, it's currently locked. So say this horse, sorry, wrong code. That's just to check that this horse is not a horse from the actual array. But what we want to do is to check if the horse is physically unlocked, so that once we look through the horses, if this is the horse that we're talking about, we need to do another command. So we need to go to custom horse. We also need to check its unlock status. So we need to get return the public boolean get horse lock state, and it's going to turn unlocked. If it's locked, we're going to go back to here. So if the horse, this is my horse, this is the horse we're talking about. If, once again, get the same horse that we're using, so get the same array we're using, get the horse state, because this is the horse we want. If the horse state boolean is equal to true, that means it's unlocked, then it's perfectly fine. Else, if this horse is not locked, it means it's unlocked, then I want to eject the player. So I need to event get entity, and I want to eject him, which what that means is you're sitting down, get off. So we'll just drop him and then send him a message as well saying that this car, so send message, this car is locked. Okay, so now we can just make the quick function for the key because it wants to return a key as well, so we can just quickly do this. It just wants an item stack, so return key, and we're returning the key that we used, and that should be all for now. So what we got is, if this is our horse, so we've got to check if this is the horse we're using, so it goes for every single position in the array. If the horse is the same horse that's in the array, so it means it's one of our custom horses, so in fact we don't need this, and we actually don't need this, sorry about that guys. So if the horse is in the array and it's the same one that we're referring to, check that the horse is locked or not. If the horse is unlocked, then everything's fine. Else, if it is locked, eject the player and say this horse is locked. Okay, so now we can do this, and usually in most cases you can just do a return because it's just the player we're looking at, since we've already found the horse anyway. Because we don't, if we found a horse, we don't want to go through the whole entire array, because I think that would be probably insanely pointless. So once we found the horse that we're talking about, we can eject as well, and eject here. So what this will do, if the horse here is not the same horse, so if it is the horse, then it will do this. Technically this is unreachable, that's why it's going to give me a problem. Yeah, we don't need that then. If the horse is locked, then just leave this, everything's fine. If it's if it's unlocked, it will be fine. If it's locked, then it will be locked, and you eject and it will return as well and jump out the loop. If it's none of these and it's not the right horse, it will just keep going through the whole state until it finds it, and if it doesn't find it, it will eject anyway. So here we can have another return. So if it's not, you don't find the horse, it's not a problem, just leave anyway. So now if we export this, actually first what we're going to do is we spawn in unlocked cars, so we can now check if he's locked or if he's unlocked. So if let's just get this car key because we're not going to be needing this at all. So if we spawn in a horse, we get on a horse, this car is locked. So technically I'm not supposed to get on it, maybe because I'm in Creator C. So guys, for us to check to say to know now that the car is physically locked, to actually eject the player, because if you remember, the event is stating that when you jump, then this event is done, the player is trying to mount onto a certain animal or any vehicle. But what we can do, we can actually cancel the event, so that what happens when he tries to mount it, it will say sorry, you cannot mount it. So what in our sense, what we're going to do is, it says this car is locked to the player first. We're going to do all the stuff we need to do first, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to cancel the event. So we're going to do event.set cancelled and say true. And now if we save this, export it, next get rid of the first two, enter, and then do a reload. We just throw all these stuff away because we don't need it anymore. Get rid of all those, and spawn in a new one. You'll see that we got stuff straight away because we tried to mount it, it's locked, and it said no, you cannot mount this. And you can clear this. So what we can now do, just to test, we can now make this true in the case that the car is unlocked. Reload, spawn in, and then there we go. This course is successfully unlocked, so I can do whatever I want. So guys, stay tuned for part 3 where we're going to be customizing this key, so I can show you guys how to actually physically lock and unlock vehicles.